Welcome to the City Current Radio Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good in our community. And we're honored to kick it off with our good friend, Ned Canty. He's the General Director of Opera Memphis. How are you doing, Ned?
Doing great. Thank you, Jeremy. How are you?
Doing very well. So let's cover some really good news on your end, and also too, just the power of art. And you do so much good here in the Mid-South, and also a lot of innovation that is getting national and international attention for Opera Memphis and for our city. So kudos to you and your team for all you do. But let's start. Give a little context, a little historical perspective for Opera Memphis.
Sure. So the company was founded in 1956. It was founded at a time when, as some of your listeners might know, the Metropolitan Opera used to tour around the country to multiple cities. They would get on a train with the sets and they would set up, in our case, every May, they would do 3 shows, 3 nights in a row. And so that led to a group of opera fans who were, big enough fans that they didn't want to only have opera 1 week out of the year. And so Opera Memphis started out of that desire to have more year-round opera. We grew and coexisted until the 80s. In the mid-'80s, the Metropolitan Opera stopped touring because the business model just didn't make sense for them anymore. And when that happened, that began a period of real growth for us. That growth continued in the 90s when there were a couple of things. The 3 tenors became this huge pop cultural force, and a lot of people became opera curious. So that was very helpful to us and opera around the country. And this innovation of projecting a translation of what was being sung for operas that were sung in a foreign language, these surtitles, as they were called, that allowed people to come and know what the story was about. And for folks like me, that really was the thing that allowed me to shift from my training in theater into opera, because all of a sudden I knew why they were singing what they were singing. So big growth for us in the 90s. At the time, leading into the 2000s, our offices left a lot to be desired. And it was a building that was not doing too well. There was a very, very smart group of board members and patrons who got together and raised money for the building that we've been in for almost 20 years now, the Clark Opera Memphis Center. And that was built on the corner of Kirby and Humphreys. Even if you didn't know it was Opera Memphis, you've probably driven by it if you're listening to this. So that was where our offices and our rehearsal space, as well as some storage, costume shop, things like that. That's where those things were for the past 18 years. The building was built with the idea that we did 3 shows a year. So for 3 shows, we would, for 3 months rather, while rehearsing those shows, we would use the space. And then the other 9 months out of the year, we would rent the space out to weddings, award ceremonies, business parties, et cetera. And that would pay for the building itself. And it made a ton of sense. It really was a great way of thinking about the sustainability of the company within that model. What changed is that 10 or so years ago, really 8 years ago, we started moving beyond just doing these sort of 3 big shows a year and started doing a lot more year-round content. It started with 30 Days of Opera, but it's really grown way beyond that. So rather than having 3 shows a year, which meant 6 nights of performance, we have dozens of performance nights every year now. So we started needing the room more and more and being able to rent it less and less. And for a lot of the performances we did, that room was way more than we needed. And then 2 major things happened that have sort of led us to this decision to find a new home. One of them is that during the pandemic, we learned that we actually don't need office space. We need some meeting space, but we don't need individual offices the way that we thought we did, or the way that we actually did need 20 years ago before we had all these digital tools. So that meant that changed the math, I think, quite a bit for all of us. And then the final thing was just this amazing generosity of Miriam and Charlie Handorf. They pledged $1 million, dollar for dollar match, to fund a program that would allow us to have singers here almost year round. So this Handorf Company Artist program, they pledged the $1 million right before the pandemic. We thought we were going to have to wait to really roll this out, but the Assisi Foundation in January of 21 came through with the first $500,000 of our match. which means that we now can launch this program. We still have some more to raise to fully fund it, but it means that we now can operate pretty much year round, which means we can no longer afford to give up our rehearsal space 9 months out of the year. So I think that's a big part of it. And I'll leave the rest because I've talked nonstop for like 18 minutes just there. So I'll let you ask more questions.
Yeah, I must say, but that's the good news is when you look at that ability to build a really solid foundation financially, now, like you said, it gives you a really powerful new set of opportunities and a new lens to say, okay, we've got this. Now let's shift over here to better match what we need for the future. And back to your point about 30 Days of Opera and all of the innovation that's taking place that's led to this national and international attention for how you're changing the game of opera, I think it all goes hand in hand. They're all building blocks that lead you to this next stage, this next iteration for Opera Memphis, which is really exciting for not only our city and our community, but like I said, this national and international spotlight that you've created. Give us a little bit of a lens on that in terms of what that means for 30 Days of Opera and, you know, the kind of the fall, the back half of this year moving forward for some of these performances.
Yeah. You know, our performances will not, there will be more of them, but our change in location, we will still be doing shows at GPAX or for as long as they'll have us. We will be at Playhouse on the Square this year coming up. We will very soon be in the new Scheidt Family Performing Arts Center at the University of Memphis. They're a little behind, very understandably. So we're not going to be in there as soon as we'd hoped, but as soon as it's opened, it was built with our input, with our needs in mind and taking our input into account. So we're very excited about having that as a performance space. 30 Days of Opera will still have the mission of trying to bring opera to every zip code in the city. That will never go away. Until they, you know, they'd have to drag me out kicking and screaming and throw me in the river for that to change. So our performances will not actually change that much, except the way that I put it yesterday to a colleague in the medical district was, if there was a coffee shop across the street from our current building where our singers were in there every day, it is without a doubt, we would be singing there, just popping up just for fun. I don't know, 100 days out of the year. And if there was a brewery across the street and a couple of restaurants, we would have a relationship. We would have a kind of performance neighborhood where this kind of 30 days activity could be happening all throughout. And not only that, but where if the, if the brewery is launching a new IPA, we can go in there and sing the drinking song from Hamlet at the party, just as a favor to our neighbor. So a lot of what will change is the kind of day-to-day texture, what we can offer to our partners and our neighbors. And, you know, where we are right now makes so much sense in so many ways, but it's not a walkable, embedded neighborhood. It's somewhere where if you are going to lunch, if you're going to get a beer after rehearsal, you have to get in your cars and drive somewhere. And once that happens, you lose some energy, and people, once they're in the car, they're like, you know, actually, maybe I'm just going to go home. So that ability to both build our community more strongly and be a part of a community that is my colleague in the medical district, which is right now, we are looking in the edge at a couple of opportunities. That colleague used the phrase reweaving the fabric of this neighborhood, which was just such a great way. I mean, really, it's such a great way of thinking about what we are trying to help with, what we're trying to be a part of. That I would say is the philosophy behind the whole thing.
Well, I love the collaboration, that collaborative community approach. And I think that is the thing that makes it very different, because traditionally you would think I have to go to the opera house or to the big venue to see the show, and that was your only chance. And to your point, no, we're taking it to the streets. We're taking it to the coffee shops. We're taking it to you. And I think that's that kind of that Memphis mindset that makes it special, because it's like, no, you could be having coffee and next thing you know, you've got, you know, an operetta going on right there, and you get to see this amazing magic happen right in front of your eyes. And yet it's a win for Opera Memphis. It's a win for Memphis. It's a win for all of us. And I like the innovation of, no, let's continually think about how can we collaborate with all these other venues? How can we collaborate with these other stakeholders and nonprofits? And how can we collaborate with literally retail, restaurants, everything that's at our fingertips to be able to really make music immersive and together with everyone. So I love that aspect. Give me one of your favorite, not necessarily performances, but favorite kind of highlights looking forward that you want everyone to know in terms of upcoming shows, plugins. What's a favorite thing that you want everyone to know?
Sure. So we have planned out our season. We've not announced it yet. So some of this still could change. And of course, next year, with venues trying to fit back in the shows that they had to postpone, it's going to be a tricky year to find places to perform anything fairly large. But everybody is, again, in a very Memphis way, everybody is working together really hard to try to accommodate as many organizations, as many needs as they can. But things I'm excited about. Number one, I think, is in September, we are going to be doing a workshop of a new opera that is by Memphis artists, Jerry Dye and Robert Patterson, the musician and composer. We're doing a full orchestra workshop with the MSO. We're going to rehearse it in the Edge District, hopefully in the building that we have targeted for our new home, but if not, just as an experiment in what it means to do this kind of thing in a neighborhood. And the opera is telling the story of Alice and Frida, the two young women in the 1890s in Memphis who fell in love and were going to run off together. Their parents found out, broke them up, and in the end, one of them became insanely jealous and killed the other in broad daylight, right? So very operatic, very, very intense, but it's a Memphis story. It is Memphis artists. And for me, the thought of working on that, creating this new opera, this new music, a stone's throw away from Sun Studios and Sam Phillips Studios, this place where the music that was created there is still being played around the world, right? That is incredibly exciting. That idea of being a part of that tradition of Memphis being a net exporter of music and musical talent, that's been something I've been excited about for a long time. And so to be right there on that sacred ground in the Edge District, that is something I'm personally really excited about. Few other things, we are working on a Christmas fiesta with Casa Teatro and the Dixon. There's still some T's to be crossed with all of that, but in December we're going to be doing an event there that will be multidisciplinary, so theater, music, dance, food, and it will celebrate the Christmas traditions of multiple Spanish-speaking countries as well as America. Just in a really fun, very family-oriented, interactive way. So that's something that will be entirely new this year that I'm, again, really excited about. We've been working more and more each year with Casa Teatro. The Dixon has always been an amazing partner for us. And gosh, there's a few other things, but I'm hesitant to commit to them. The one that I can say, the thing that my heart is gladdest about, is a few years back, we had co-commissioned this opera with the Department of Defense and a number of other opera companies called The Falling and the Rising. And we were the first professional company of the cohort of companies that commissioned it to do it. It tells multiple interwoven stories based on interviews with soldiers. And one of the things we did, again, an innovation that now is being used by other companies, is for the chorus, instead of using our usual chorus, who are incredibly talented people, but we decided to try something new, which is we invited any active or retired military from any branch to audition to be the chorus. They appear at the end in this very, very moving, what the composer calls his anthem, about the nature of service. So if I get choked up, I apologize. This piece is probably the thing in my 50 years of life, the thing I'm proudest of having worked on. So we did it a few years back. It sold out. It was really life-changing for me and for a lot of the people involved. We took that production to Seattle. Had the pandemic not happened, it would have been in 4 other cities now. There are other productions in other cities. So we're bringing that back. It's the #1 piece that people ask me about. So we will be doing that piece in March at Playhouse in the Square. We're going to be inviting back all of our former choristers from the military, our joint military chorus. and we're going to be opening it up to as many other folks as we can accommodate. It just was, I don't know, it's really hard to express what the piece meant, but I will say that within that chorus, there were people who were currently serving at the in the Air National Guard, great guys. There was a tank mechanic from Vietnam. There was a 2-star retired general, and there was a guy who fought at the Battle of the Bulge. And so sitting backstage, I got to watch this guy who fought at the Battle of the Bulge with his eyes glued to a 24-year-old assistant stage manager, waiting for her to tell him when to go on stage. And it was just surreal. It was incredible. So the fact that this is a piece that would not have happened without the work that we had put into it, without these Memphis artists we had found, the way we did it is now becoming the de facto standard for every other company in the country that's doing it. And so to bring it back is just something that I've wanted to do for a while now, even before the pandemic, but to be able to do it is just astoundingly fantastic.
That's awesome. How can we help? So how can the community help?
I would say the number one, well, two things, actually. One is keep an open mind about what we do. I think, as somebody who grew up with musical theater and folk and punk and going to CBGBs in high school, not to the Met, I think I had a very closed mind about opera for a long time. And when I got hooked, but it wasn't until my mid-20s. So keep an open mind, decide for yourself if you like it. If you don't like it, that's totally fine. There are genres of music I don't love. So that's number one, is just try it, come to something, see if you like it. And if you don't, totally cool. The second thing is think about us as a part of the fabric of the community. When you're doing an event and you need someone to sing the national anthem, when you need some value added, any way in which you could think of a way in which we can make your mission stronger, your event better, talk to us. Sometimes we won't be able to do it, or sometimes we will need to hire singers and there will be costs involved. But you'd be amazed at how often it's actually a very simple thing, and how much the singers that we work with want to give back, want to be a part of making the city a better place for everybody. And so think of us in that way. Don't just think of us as entertainers or artists, God forbid, living in some ivory tower. Think of the Memphis part of our name, and think about what we could do together. Think about the stories that you think need to be told. This weekend, we have a young man who we worked with at a program at Stax, who is going to New York to audition. He has a callback at the Met. And this is something that started out of the kind of Memphis conversations you have with people. It just became a thing. I don't think any of us would have thought like, oh, this is a thing that could happen. But because we tried it, because we experimented with it, and because people opened their minds and hearts and began conversations, great things are happening. I don't know whether it gets there or not. It just opened up doors. It began a new path that we did not know was open. And this is, I apologize for my PJ, you're okay. Hey, pandemic. So many new doorways, so many new pathways have opened up in terms of what this city can do. This move is going to open up so many things. So I invite everybody, reach out, let me know how you think an opera can be a part, whatever you think opera might be, how you think it could be a part of making the city better for everybody. Even if you don't like opera, what can we do to make your life better? That's what I want to know. That's what makes me excited. That's why I hopefully sound excited right now, because I am. That is the thing that drives me, and I can't do that alone. I need people to invite us into the table. I'll pay for the coffee. Just let's start that conversation.
Goes back to the collaboration and community. So I love it. Wrap up with contact information, website, social media. Where do we go to reach out and start those conversations and get involved?
Absolutely. operamemphis.org is our website. You can find us at Opera Memphis on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, all those things. We also have a TikTok account, which I, believe it or not, don't use that often, but other people do. And you can always email me. You know, I always encourage people, if you have questions, especially if you have questions about this move, email me. I'm Ned, Ned at operamemphis.org. I want to hear from you. I want to have that conversation. It's the thing I love about the city our size is I can meet people. I could talk to them directly, even if it's just them stopping me at the Kroger to let me know what they think, good or bad, about any decision we've made. That is that kind of interaction. It's their company. They're the reason we don't pay taxes. We owe them our ears with all of this. So that's the best way to get in touch with us.
Well, I absolutely love it. Thank you for all you and your amazing team do. Ned Canty, General Director, Opera Memphis. Appreciate you coming on the show, buddy.
Absolutely. Thanks for all you guys do. You are everything I love about Memphis.